Sandra Prior, bonjour, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Andre?
Very well today at the old port of Montreal, where you love to come and find party. So tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what your training is.
Well, as you said, my name is Sandra Prior. My formal education out of high school was as a nurse, and I went into specialize in operating room technique. And it was in Northern Ontario, and I left nursing for a time and went into a totally different area, the fashion industry, which had nothing to do with health and wellness, of course, but it was something I'd always wanted to experiment with. But when I decided I wanted to go back into the field of health and wellness, I would have had to take a refresher course in nursing. And I decided instead of doing that, I would start studying naturopathy. At that time, I was married, I had a child, so I couldn't go back to school full time.
What year was this?
Oh, that's a long time ago, Andre. And in between...
In the 80s?
Yeah. And in between, I developed cancer. I had cancer of the uterus, and according to the statistics, I should have died. But I didn't. As you can see, I'm still here, and I've never had cancer again. But it kind of put me on a path to looking at health in a different way from the medical point of view. And that's what led me to start studying in the field of naturopathy. And I studied, there were no English courses offered in Montreal at that time. So I did do some studies with a doctor in California, Dr. Valerie Seaman. She's a naturopathic doctor. I did all of her courses and became a facilitator for her work. And I also did correspondence courses with a School of Natural Nutrition in Ontario. And I have, I mean, the one thing about learning is that you never know enough. So I continue to study and take courses even today. I also became interested in the work of Dr. Hulda Clark, who wrote a number of books on the connection between parasites and solvents like isopropyl alcohol and benzene, as they were, she felt, a main contributing factor to a person getting cancer and degenerative diseases. So I studied her work. I went down to see her in San Diego, and I went to her clinic, which was in Tijuana. And so I worked with her, and I brought that information back to Montreal. I learned how to test people for a certain number of parasites and to use her protocol. And so I went on from there, and I've also taken courses in quantum biofeedback. I've taken courses in helping to educate women as far as breast cancer is concerned. And it's also taken me into fields of emotional, spiritual transformation, and I used to teach weekend seminars on that subject. I learned how to do applied kinesiology, which is muscle response testing, to be able to access information from the body, and also to be able to direct people in a certain path towards their wellness. And in 2010, an acupuncturist from Kingston, who had taken one of the courses I taught in Toronto, had kept my card, my business card, for more than 10 years. And she called me and asked me if I had ever heard of the science of redox signaling molecules, which I had not. You can never know everything, that's for sure. And so I said, well, I'm not looking for a new product, but I am interested to know what's new in the market, so send me the information. And it was like an aha moment, because I thought, even if half of what they say about this science, I have to know more about this. So I called her up and I said, I want to know more. I want to see the product that's associated with this science and the technology. And that started me in 2010 on another avenue of healing, wellness and healing with the science of redox signaling molecules. Now, it is new science. We don't know everything about it. And for a long time it was considered to be just those molecules that are produced in the body were considered to be a waste byproduct of energy production. We're kind of arrogant as a species, and when we don't know what something is for, we automatically label it as being a waste of no use to the body. But in 1998, there were 3 medical doctors in Europe who were awarded the Nobel Prize for Medicine for discovering one of those redox signaling molecules was essential, and that's the key word, essential to the healing process, which means healing doesn't happen without them. So it makes it a pretty significant science, wouldn't you agree? And so the more I learn about it, the more I use the associated products, the more I realize how absolutely important and valuable this is. There's an atomic physicist by the name of Dr. Gary Samuelson who did a lot of the early research on this product and its technology, and he says that it's probably the most significant discovery of our time. And even Dr. James Watson, who was the co-discoverer of the double helix, DNA double helix, he also says that this science is probably more important than his work that he did on DNA. So those people give you kind of a perspective on the value of this particular science.
And when we age, we produce less of these.
That's right. So though the body's able to produce them, we do lose the capacity to produce them in the cells by apparently an estimated 1% a year. And so by the age of 70, apparently we're operating at about a 10% capacity. And if you remember what I said earlier, essential to the healing process.
So what is it exactly? It's not just saline water.
Well, no, but you see, in the body, and I don't want to get too scientific here, but when the body produces the energy in the mitochondria in the cell, in 3 seconds, the body changes the molecular structure of its own intracellular fluid, which is a saline solution, into redox signaling molecules. And
that's so when the cell is functioning properly.
That's right.
Producing
that's right.
its optimal energy level.
That's right. So we know that that's what happens, and most scientists and many laboratories, even though there are labs in many of the prestigious universities around the world who are studying this science, and there's thousands of articles about redox signaling molecules on the internet. You just look at PubMed and you'll find thousands of articles. All of the research says that they're 10 to 15 years away from being able to produce them outside the body. But this company, ASEA, did it in 2009. So, and they continue to do very important research, always with independent labs, not in-house research. It gives much more credibility to the product, and they're not afraid to know the truth. It's a company with high standards, high principles, and a high level of integrity, but they're not afraid to know the truth about this product.
Tell me, without giving the secret formula, what do they do to the water they energize it? Or?
It's a technological electrical process. That's the best I can say, because I'm not a scientist and I don't know the exact methodology, but I know that it's through electrical technology.
Okay.
And that instead of 3 seconds, it takes 3 days for them to create those molecules. So they take a pristine solution of saline and they make it identical to the intracellular fluid. And then over a 3-day process, they bring it down to its atomic level. So they're separating all the structures into atoms, and then it is restructured as redox signaling molecules. So though a person may look at the bottle and see that the ingredients are water and saline, they can't say redox signaling molecules as an ingredient because they're made in and out of the saline solution. It's just a restructuring of those molecules.
And can you define redox signaling molecules, and what do they do when we drink it?
Well, again, I'm not a scientist, so this is from a layperson's perspective, but redox is a combination of two words, reductants and oxidants. And we know what these molecules are. They're reactive molecules. We think of them as free radicals. They're very fleeting. They're unpaired electrons. One gives an electron, one takes an electron. And we've always thought of these reactive molecules as being the bad guys in the body. But when the body produces the energy and it creates these redox molecules in the cell, they're in perfect balance, reductants with oxidants. Okay, and when they're in perfect balance, they are not the enemy.
They're not harming the body.
They're not harming the body.
They're not rusting.
No, no.
By taking this water.
So that's what makes it so interesting, and it's to find out all of the things that it can do. So the company is on this path of research. They've spent millions and millions of dollars researching this because it's new science.
And what has the research shown? Does it repair damage done by free radicals?
Well,
by pollution, for instance?
Initially what we knew was that the molecules turn on the body's production of its own antioxidants. Superoxide dismutase, glutathione, which is the one that most people have heard of. And these antioxidants, particularly glutathione, are made in the body, and they are super antioxidants, but it's almost impossible to take glutathione supplementally because it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. And so if a company does make one as a supplement, they always have to have a carrier with it, hoping it will transport the glutathione across the blood-brain barrier. But in the case of this ASEA product, it has been proven through research that it automatically increases the body's activity of its own production of antioxidant molecules, which is...
By 500%?
I believe it's around that. I don't have it memorized, but
that's
it's somewhere around
there. That's what I read.
Yeah. And we also know they're called redox signaling molecules, and that's because they message. They send signals out throughout the body, these molecules, signaling and reporting and signaling the immune system. There's damage over here. And that gives the immune system, which is generally in crisis control, the opportunity to go over where the damage is and start putting into effect the healing process. So those are some of the things that it's done. And they've done ongoing research with athletes. We have Olympians who are using the product because they know they get a longer endurance. They can run faster, further.
I've been taking it I'm on my second bottle, and I noticed again I can't take it at the end of the day. I woke up at 1 o'clock this morning, and I went back to sleep at 4:30 after reading on biometeorology, the impact of weather on us. And I slept for another hour, and I feel great. I have a lot of energy.
I tell people that usually I recommend people take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach and then wait 5 to 15 minutes before eating or drinking, and to do the same thing close to sleep time, because a lot of people have sleep issues. And I know for myself, the first time I tried it, I went to sleep like I've never slept before, and that is not an issue for me. I'm a good sleeper. I sometimes say I can sleep standing up, but I never slept like that. And when I woke up the next morning, I thought to myself, you think of all the people who have sleep problems. This product is worth it for them just for that. But there are some instances where, like in your case, that you took it late at night and it was too stimulating, it woke you up. And so then I would suggest you take it when you're preparing your evening meal or mid-afternoon or something like that. And because it does, I mean, we're all individuals, so it does have a personal effect on each one. Mm-hmm. But with athletes, we knew, the company knew that there were athletes who were experiencing improvement in their workouts, in their timing and whatnot. And Dr. David Neiman, who is the director of the Human Performance Lab in the North Carolina University, he was commissioned to and hired to do some actual studies on athletes to see what he could find. Why was this happening? Yes. And one of the things that they discovered in that lab was that taking the ASEA product, even before exercise, the body was taking fatty acids out of perhaps the adipose tissue in the abdomen and using it for energy. And what that did was spare the glycogen stored energy that was in the muscles. So let's say they're on a marathon or whatever, they're not using up their glycogen stores with their initial output of energy. The body is letting them use this fatty acid. So that also happens with people who aren't athletes. And so some people experience the benefit from that. They have more energy than they would have expected.
And for repair of injuries, sports injuries?
It goes very quickly, because if you use the topical gel and you're using the liquid, that healing process is beginning almost immediately when you take the product. So the body will heal in the order of importance. It'll go to where the damage is most significant and start the healing process immediately.
But you can't make medical claims. It's accelerating the body's healing capacities?
Well, I think Anne-Louise Gittleman, who is a famous author, and by the way, she's just come out with a brand new book in which she mentions the science of redox molecules. She says that in her humble opinion, this is the greatest product for harnessing the body's own resources to make you well. That's what she's saying. So it's not like the product, and none of us make medical claims. It's not like, take this, it's going to cure you of this. That's not the point. It's giving your body something that the body can use in order to expand or improve how it regenerates and heals damaged cells.
Just optimize its function?
Absolutely, yes. Uses what nature has given us, and we optimize that. Mm-hmm. And it's been proven to be 100% toxic-free, 100% safe. It does not interfere with any medical treatment or pharmaceutical product that somebody might be taking under their doctor's orders. So there really aren't any contraindications for taking it. So I think it's pretty wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Are there doctors prescribing it?
Well, not at this point, and certainly in Canada, doctors really aren't permitted to experiment with any product other than what they are taught from the pharmaceutical industry. And it's only, I would say, in our latest history that they've even considered prescribing vitamins and minerals in some cases. But in the United States, there are medical doctors who are also naturopathic doctors. They're allowed to be in both those fields. And there are a lot of them that are involved using this product and recommending it to people.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a bit about the testimonies. I've seen the lady who didn't know what to do with the fork.
Well, these are, again, there's all kinds of testimonies of people with different conditions who had nervous system conditions where, let's say, there's a lot of spasm in the nervous system or shaking, and this one woman, she had such a condition and was unable to feed herself. And she started...
Did she have Alzheimer's? Because she really didn't know what the fork was for?
No, and I can't say what her condition was either. But she had tremors and she was shaking and she couldn't handle utensils properly and she had to be fed. And she reluctantly actually started using the ASEA product. And within a few weeks after starting on it, she was able to hold a pencil or a pen in her hand and write her name, something she hadn't been able to do up to this point. And gradually over time she was able to feed herself totally without any assistance at all. So that is an example of the body's ability to regenerate itself if it is given the right substances. So that gives you an idea. And it doesn't matter the age of the person or the severity of their condition. If these molecules help the body to heal itself of damage and initiate repair, it stands to reason that it helps everyone, that there are no exceptions.
It's really fascinating. Well, I'm going to keep testing it myself.
Good, I hope you do. I've been using it since 2010, every day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What has it done for you, besides
lots of things,
quality of sleep? What else?
Well, more energy, and I do a fitness class 3 times a week, and for over 55-year-old people, and I certainly keep up with everybody, and I know I have more energy than some of them who I'm sure are much younger than I am. But
can you say that you're pushing on?
No, I never tell my age. And I quote an expression I heard an elderly woman say once when she was asked her age. Age is a number and mine is unlisted.
It's psychological in any case.
Well, I think we tend to put labels on people and define them by their age. And you do hear people say, oh my goodness, for her age she's so athletic, or no one would ever believe she was such and such an age. You know, because there's a label on people. You're this age, this is the extent of your ability. And I just don't like to be labeled.
Yeah. A lot of people say you need a bungalow when you grow up, when you age, and my wife says, no, you need a cottage. To say, I'm going to keep climbing these stairs.